Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this live stream at SAG-AFTRA on YouTube. To stay informed about our live stream and video events, we want you to subscribe to this channel. Take a moment and do it right now. Today, we welcome to the President's Task Force on Education Outreach and Engagement live stream series, Congresswoman Judy Chu for a legislative update. The presentation will begin momentarily. If you have questions that you'd like to direct to today's guests, please email PTEOE@SAGAFTRA.org. That's PTEOE@SAGAFTRA.org. As a reminder, today's program is being recorded and you can watch the replay right here on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel. And now, please welcome your host, SAG-AFTRA President Gabrielle Carteris.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I hope that each of you are doing well and staying safe during this period. It's been a crazy period. Before we begin, I just want to welcome and thank our Executive Vice President, Rebecca Damon. Hi, Rebecca. And our Secretary Treasurer, Cameron Manheim. Hello, Cameron. As well as our PTEO members and all the members actually who reach out and continue to inform us of what's going on and taking place within the union and in our country. So today's presentation actually could not be more timely. It's with the important actions that are being contemplated in Congress with the recent executive action by the president. While the union is actually nonpartisan and does not advocate or endorse candidates or parties, there is so much legislative and policy work that affects our industry and our work lives that is actually being done in Washington and across the country. We have to stay on top of the issues. I feel this is one of the most important things that we do as we not only today, but move into the future. The issues that matter to SAG-AFTRA members must be paid attention to. We want our membership to be educated. The more knowledge we have, the more self-determination we have, and that is very important. So today, we are going to be talking with Congresswoman Judy Chu. She's the co-founder and leader of the Congressional Rights Creative Caucus. She does this work along with Representative Doug Collins. He was originally scheduled to also be with us today, but something came up, he could not. We hope he'll join us at another time. The Congressional Creative Rights Caucus is a bipartisan caucus dedicated to protecting the rights of the creative community. And under Congresswoman's leadership, the caucus focuses on fair compensation, protection of intellectual property rights. It's actually a caucus that staunchly supports copyright and other legislative policy initiatives, all of which protect the creative artists' rights. That's us, income, and ability to work and prosper, all these things that are important to our members. So Representative Chu has hosted, along with Collins and others, briefings, events, informational opportunities for legislators, policymakers. She's actually led the modernization of the Copyright Office, an effort that impacts all of the products that our members make. And when I say products, I mean products such as movies, television, songs, new broadcasts, all of the different kind of new content that is being created in our industry. Most importantly, the Congresswoman and the Creative Rights Caucus have helped other members of Congress understand, and I've seen this happen face to face, it's amazing. They help the members of Congress understand the real and meaningful contributions of all workers in front of the camera and behind the microphone. Not just our importance in the US economy and our contributions to the US GDP, but actually our contributions to the heritage and culture of our country. So one of the hallmarks of your work, Congresswoman, which I really admire, is something that I've been very impressed with during my trips to DC. It's been watching you work across the aisle with your Republican counterparts, getting the work done that benefits everybody. And with something I think actually we all long to see is this ability to work together. So I really appreciate the work you do. She not only is a representative of Californians, but is at the epicenter of legislative and policy work that helps and supports our members across the country. Representative Chu is a 10-year member of the United States House of Representatives serving the 27th Congressional District. She currently serves on the House Ways and Means Committee, which has jurisdiction over legislation pertaining to taxes, revenue, Social Security, Medicare, all the issues that touch our members. In addition, Representative Chu is a member of the Subcommittee on Health, Worker and Family Support and Oversight, She also serves on the House Small Business Committee, which has oversight of the Small Business Administration, and is the chair of the Small Business Oversight Committee. Just a few of the many things that she does. So please welcome Representative Judy Chu. Hello, how are you?
Well, thank you, Gabrielle. I am so glad that I could join you and all the members of SAG-AFTRA for this important town hall discussion. And I particularly want to thank you, President Gabrielle Carteris, for your leadership, because you have been such a vocal advocate for the members of SAG-AFTRA, and you have come to Capitol Hill time and time again to advocate for your members' needs. And in fact, we've had an annual event called Beyond the Red Carpet, where we raise awareness about all the great things that the movie and film industry is doing. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
Thank you. I'm sorry we're going to miss that this year.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it next year for sure.
Yes, for sure.
I'm always so proud to stand up for artists and actors because I know just how important you are to our economy, not only here in California, but across the country. That is why I started the Congressional Creative Rights Caucus, because I wanted more of my colleagues in Congress to understand just how much we depend on your industry. And that is all the more reason we need to be doing everything we can right now to support our out of work actors and artists. One of the top things I hear from constituents is that they want to return to work, but fear for their health or the health of loved ones. That is why until we contain and defeat the coronavirus, we have to make it possible for Americans to stay home without losing their home. In March, Congress took the first step when we passed the CARES Act, which was a massive $2 trillion relief bill. Under the CARES Act, a temporary federal pandemic unemployment compensation program was created. It provided a lifeline of an additional $600 per week payment to each recipient of unemployment insurance. It also provided an additional 13 weeks for a total of 39 weeks of unemployment benefits to help those who remain unemployed after state unemployment benefits are no longer available to them. A very important part of the CARES Act is the independent contractors or gig workers or self-employed workers. I fought for the inclusion of them because they are not traditionally eligible for unemployment benefits. And so we needed to find a way to make sure that they were. And as a result, there was a special pandemic unemployment insurance just for our self-employed, independent contractors, and gig workers and small business owners. However, a problem that arose after the CARES Act was implemented was that mixed income workers, like so many actors who receive a mix of wage income and income from independent contracting work, were not receiving benefits that reflected their true earnings. Many were receiving a smaller state benefit because they worked for a job where they received some W-2 income, even if that wasn't their primary income. In my district in Southern California, we have so many of these types of workers who are struggling to make ends meet because of this glitch. Actors who may have a day job to pay the bills while pursuing their careers in the arts. And so we have been working overtime to fix this. I've joined Congressmember Adam Schiff in introducing the Mixed Earner Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Act to fix this problem. Our legislation would ensure that mixed income earners are able to access the same relief to make up for the lost work that the CARES Act provided to those with more straightforward employment arrangements. Specifically, it would allow workers with substantial self-employment income to opt into the federal benefit. And that would allow mixed earners to receive unemployment benefits that are calculated based on their actual income. Well, it is just horrible that the funding for this extended unemployment insurance expired at the end of July, leaving millions without enough money to cover rent or pay bills or afford food. And this did not have to happen. We, the Democrats in the House, back in May, passed the HEROES Act, HR 6800. This was our latest COVID-19 relief bill. It would have extended our unemployment benefits until the end of the year in December, in addition to providing other aid, very critical aid for such people as renters and homeowners who are struggling to pay the bills. But Republicans are dragging their feet and have refused to consider it in these 3 months since we passed it. And they only began negotiations a week before the emergency unemployment benefits expired. And that is why we also must look at other options to help artists like you stay on your feet to weather this crisis. I believe one of these options has to be updating the qualified performing artist tax deduction. This deduction, which allows professional artists to deduct expenses like headshots, transportation, and more, is a lifeline to many professional artists, saving them thousands of dollars each year. But it was made ineffective when Republicans enacted their tax cuts last Congress. Updating that deduction would mean more money in the pockets of artists like each of you. That's why I introduced the Performing Artist Tax Parity Act to do just that. Now, there is good news. There is a lot of support for you artists that is bipartisan, and this bill is one of them. This legislation is bipartisan support, and I'm optimistic that if we can build that support further, we can include this in future economic packages in the coming months. This virus and the efforts necessary to stop it are taking a toll on all of us. It doesn't care what your job is or where you earned your income before. And neither should we. If we are going to get through this crisis, we need to make sure that every worker gets the support that they need. That is what I'm working on in Congress. And now I know that you have some questions, and I look forward to hearing from each of you about what else can be done to help artists during this time period.
Thank you so much. And this is a lot for people to chew on. So I have to say thank you. Yeah, we were actually depending on the HEROES Act, and I know that the executive orders came through this weekend. What does that mean to the HEROES Act? Because that does have a direct effect regarding the mixed income. What does it mean? Right now, the executive, we looked through the language after it was presented this weekend, and we realized that our members, a lot of them are not going to be eligible at all because the unemployment, if they're reaching just $100 or less in unemployment, they're not going to be able to get that. So is the HEROES Act finished? And if not, what are we looking at, and how can we help it get there?
Well, let me say straight out that Trump's executive orders would be a disaster for mixed income people. Those who get W-2 income would get none of this relief, nothing. They would just get what state income would be owed to them from the W-2 income. So it would be horrendous for many, many people in the industry. But let me just say overall, I was so extremely disappointed with Trump's executive order. First of all, it's illegal and circumvents Congress's authority to appropriate federal funds. It's only Congress that can allocate such funds and shift them. Also, he is depending with his unemployment proposal to dictate to states how they administer their unemployment benefit program. Actually, he doesn't have this authority. Even we, under the CARES Act, respected states' authority, and a state had to voluntarily enter into a financial agreement with the federal government for any person in that state to get additional benefits. Of course they did, because the what we had in the CARES Act was so beneficial to all of our 50 states. Finally, this memorandum has a very terrible provision in it that requires that states provide 25% of the benefit. So he's proposing $400 Right now, of course, we are providing $600 extra. He's saying $400, but actually he's saying states have to provide 25% of that. So in reality, he's really objectively only proposing $300. And I want to ask you, which states have the ability to come up with the extra dollars to be able to pay for this, considering they're already at wit's end, paying for so many different things that they had never anticipated. Plus, tax revenues are going so far down with so many businesses not being able to pay in. And in fact, already California there are already so many states like California borrowing billions of dollars to pay just for the state unemployment benefits as it is right now. Well, so legally speaking, he does not stand on much ground.
Well, is there, and I hear that, and we've been, everybody's watching and listening right now because it's so important, but knowing that the executive orders are here right now, does that exclude, the HEROES Act or another alternative for us to look at the mixed income? Because again, for our members, that is so crucial. That money that would have been, hopefully that we're able to, to receive or to have it acknowledged would happen in the bill. So is the HEROES Act totally gone? If it is totally gone, or is it not? And if it is, what are the alternatives we have so that we can try to, is it a separate bill that we have to create? Is there a way for us to be able to find a way to achieve it?
Well, I believe that President Trump will not be able to actually act on these proposals because it's illegal and he's overstepping his authority. What we really need to depend on are for the Republicans to come back to the table. As you know, a couple of days ago, they walk out. But I do think that people in all the districts are raising their voices. They're getting more and more desperate. Every single Congress member, whether Democrat or Republican, is hearing from them. So there's pressure on them to come back to the table and get a solution. Now, I think that we have to come somewhere in the middle. Our HEROES Act costs $3 trillion. The Republicans were only willing to go to $1 trillion in their initial proposal. Why don't we meet somewhere in the middle? Why don't we meet somewhere at $2 trillion? That is what the Democrats proposed the last time around. And I think it makes perfect sense. We need to be able to work things out. Not everybody's going to get everything that they wanted, but a lot of people will get much of what they need.
So what would be a way, because this is important, our members are interested. I'm hearing that you want people to come back to the table to be able to have this conversation. How can we as members activate in terms of this particular issue? Who do we reach out to? What do we do? And do we do it on a regular basis? Are there organizations, things that we can connect to? Because this is so important. We want to be a part of the conversation. We want to help lead the way. What would you recommend?
Well, it is good to have input into the national organizations so that the members of Congress know that people all across the 50 states are suffering and that they need a solution. They need some relief quickly. And the individual Congress members need to know this. The members of the Senate in particular, there are certain senators whose seats are in danger, and they're really vulnerable to the voices of those who are speaking in their district. Otherwise, they could lose their elections. So it's especially putting pressure on them. That is really key, because really it's the Senate Republicans that need to come to the table to negotiate for a solution. And if the Senate Republicans come forth and if they can get the White House buy-in, then we can get some kind of solution here.
That's so when you're saying that, should we be doing that through emails and texting and? Okay.
All of the above.
Right. Well, you know that SAG-AFTRA is working with a broad coalition of music organizations to correct this earner oversight. So given your investment, right, with us in the problem, are there ways that you can help support, ways that you can be supported in the work, right? Because we want to be able to amplify the message. So you're saying we can go and reach out to the Republicans who represent us to go and be able to say what we're looking for. How else can we support you?
Well, since you have members that live all over the United States, if they can contact their member of Congress or their senator then that would go a long way. So you have that wonderful ability to reach out everywhere.
Yes.
In all kinds of states. And that is just great because we need that kind of reach. We need for these members of Congress to hear from everybody.
Thank you. So yes, everybody, I'm hoping they hear this. We're going to go through everything that we go through. I'm going to ask you to actually let us know how we can go to be supportive of the acts that we want to see here in terms of legislation. You mentioned the QPA, Qualified Performing Artist Deduction. And I think that this is a really, it is something that I found to be, everybody understood it. It is definitely not a partisan issue. It's, and it's right now House bill only. It's something that you're working on with Congressman Vern Buchanan, and it was to see Vern and you together when we were up on the Hill. I know it's not in the Senate yet. It's not in any large relief bill. It's a standalone bill. I want everybody to understand that different. It's not in the HEROES Act. It's something that's by itself. It's known as the Tax Parity Act, as you mentioned. As you know, we're looking to close the loophole in this tax code, right? This Qualified Performing Artist tax provision, which actually, for our members who might not recognize it, was created during the Reagan era. And it was, at that time, it had been capped at $16,000 annual income. And now we're asking, with the new tax bill that came forward, we're not looking to revamp anything. We're just saying to be able to update something that has not been updated since, was it 1986? So we're looking to move it to $100,000 in income per person for qualifications for the deduction. Since you've introduced this bill, this Tax Parity Act in the House, I want to say thank you, because it was amazing to be up in Washington talking to everybody and seeing how people really understood it. My question to you is, with everything that's going on, and even though there's agreement on it, what do we anticipate with so many things going on? Is there a time frame in which we can see this maybe being approached, and how can we help to move it into an earlier action?
First of all, I want to thank you, the SAG-AFTRA members, because you came up to the Hill and many of the members talked about their own experiences. They talked about their life, and it's a life that we can hardly ever imagine, where you have to buy so many things. You have to get the headshots, and you have to drive somewhere, and you have to buy costumes and hairstylists, all these things, and then you may not get the job. So you put these expenses out, and you do it, well, you're the true risk takers, I must say.
Well, we're investing in our careers, right, in our businesses.
Yeah. Right. So after hearing so many stories, I know that when people told me their stories on Capitol Hill, I was even more moved, and so glad that I was an author of this bill. But I have to say that your stories moved a lot of people, and we actually got more co-sponsors from the members of Congress after that. So it really does help for you to tell your stories. And the more co-sponsors, the better. I have to say that this is truly bipartisan. Vern Buchanan, who's a Republican Congress member from Florida, is particularly enthusiastic about this bill. He has a number of performers in his district. And so he sees this as only a just thing to do. Of course, it's ridiculous to be only able to take advantage of this deduction if your gross income is $16,000. That's $1,986.
Right. I was gonna say, that's not a possible divide, right?
So it's only a matter of justice for us to raise it to $100,000. I feel very good about it being inserted at some point in some bigger tax bill, some bigger budget bill. We have to be there at the right time to do it, but the good thing is, with it being bipartisan, we have more ability to do it.
Well, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to help you on that one. And we really would love to, when it's time, you know, let us know. We're going to continue to reach out and support you because we want that to be able to come forward. And like you said, there's so much agreement on it. So very happy about it. I want to share with you a question that came from one of our members. His name is Eddie. He says, performers are taxed on commissions we pay to our agent and to our agent, and our agents are taxed on the same money as commissions received. I know there's so many issues due to COVID-19, but I want to know where we're at with the Performing Artists Tax Parity Act that you've co-sponsored. So you've said where you're at with it, but that idea that double taxing that goes on is also a real challenge for us. And would that be something then that would be relieved out of that, or?
Well, I feel that the Tax Parity Act would address this particular issue where you're double taxed. It would relieve the tax burden that is out there. So this would be part of the solution to that problem.
Great. And I have some other questions. I'm going to go in and out of things with you here because people have been sending in questions, and I also want to go and talk to you a little bit about copyright because that's a big thing that you helped us with. SAG-AFTRA member Laura says, has there been any conversation or talk about dismissing student loans during the COVID-19 crisis?
So, student loans are a huge burden for those who are just struggling anyway. And so we knew that this had to be a focus early on. And that's why in the CARES Act, we did pass the provision that student loan payments would all be suspended, all federal student loan payments through September 30th of this year. Not only that, these loans could be forgiven if there was a certain amount of payments made over a certain time for a variety of different jobs. So that has already passed. Mm-hmm. But it's clear that September 30th is right around the corner. That's why in the HEROES Act, we extended this deferral of the student loan payments to September 30th of next year. So yeah, that would be major. That'd be a year and a month, and that would certainly provide relief, and there would be no accrual of interest. But on top of that, there would be $10,000 in economic assistance to distressed borrowers. So in other words, for those in need, $10,000 of that loan would be written down so that the student would not have to pay for it. So this would be tremendous relief, I know, to a lot of the students that are out there. It's unfortunate that the Senate Republicans have refused to act on these proposals. I do see, of course, in President Trump's executive orders that he did instruct the Department of Education to extend the CARES Act student loan forbearance, the deferral through the end of this year. But actually, it's still a circumvention of Congress's purview for him to do that.
Oh, it's just a whole new thing there. Okay, so I'm going to go on to our next question here. This is from Neil. He says, can Congress work with state governments to change the way residuals are reported as income for unemployment purposes? Many actors and former actors who earn residuals are losing their unemployment income due to the residual income being earned from jobs they worked a long time ago. Many states like New York don't count residual income when claiming weekly benefits, and this ensures that people who are out of work can survive. This is very key, actually, particularly here in California. This has been a major issue for years, and even more so, it's being spotlit right now during COVID-19.
So I've heard from your members, and it is an issue that I am raising with the Ways and Means Committee to look into. My understanding is that the California State Employment Development Department would have to change policy in order to not count residual income for unemployment purposes. Nonetheless, I think this is a very important thing to do. I am glad that you raised this with me, and it is really good also that we have precedent in terms of other states that have not included residual income, which only is right considering that one is unemployed. So this is something that would have to be done on a state level, and perhaps there could be a strategy on reaching out to our state level representatives in Sacramento.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna wrap it up into the one thing I want to talk about is copyright, because that's what I've been really actively watching you do, and you are amazing when you're doing this work up on health. Really a great advocate. If you can just tell us what's your thinking on the copyright protection, and I want to say, you know, we call it piracy, but I call it theft. But what are your thoughts on this, and how far are we, and where do we need to go?
So the law that governs copyright, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, is still the primary governing law for copyright. And that law was passed in 1998, over 22 years ago, basically before the digital era. And that is why we are in such a primitive place, I believe, as far as copyright protection. And in fact, under current US copyright law, offering up illegal content to be downloaded on piracy sites is a felony, but distributing that content via streaming is only a misdemeanor.
Why is
I mean, well, it's just because we have ancient laws. Streaming was not as popular as it is now. I mean, nobody could have dreamed we'd be streaming as much as we are now, in fact. Remember, not even every home had the internet in those days. So yeah, we are definitely in a situation where we need to have the laws catch up with what's going on today in our digital world. And as a result, we need to have some true change. Now, when I was in judiciary, we had a review of this law of DCMA. We went through all the different chapters and we saw all the shortcomings. And we had hoped for change, but of course, we always have some tension with our internet providers, and so it took a while for us to go through it, and we're still awaiting some major change. I do have to say that earlier this summer, the Copyright Office released a long-awaited report on the efficacy of the DMCA's notice and takedown system, which of course is another ancient kind of
challenge that.
Yeah, you see pirate up policy, you just issue a notice for them to take it down, and they might take it down, but then it just pops up in some other form. Well, anyway,
so this report, when it's popping up in a different form, because that's how do we go and stop that repeated infringement posting?
It's just, I mean, right now it's totally inefficient. It's a whack-a-mole process. It just pops up and then you have to issue another one. So the only ones who can really do this seriously are the very, very large companies that have whole teams that just do this all day long. But for the average person, it's just so difficult. Now, let me say, as far as this long-awaited report on the efficacy of this notice and takedown system has been in the works for 5 years. It did come out, it concluded that the current system is largely ineffective with regard to combating copyright infringement protection. So now the House and Senate Judiciary Committees are closely reviewing the report and ultimately are looking to draft legislation that will update this aspect of DMCA. So I hope finally we can get some strong provisions that will require the internet platforms to take more responsibility in keeping pirated content off their sites.
I have to ask you, because I know that you're not a performer, you're a politician, but whatever inspired your involvement in the copyright issues? Because these issues are so important to our members and to artists overall. So many of us are just living on, that's how we make our living, through our, whether it's our images, the work we do, those residuals. So how did you get involved with the Creative Right Caucus? What made that something that was of interest to you?
Well, first of all, my district is such a special one. I have a lot of creators in my district, or people who are in the film and television industry, whose jobs are supported by the creative industries. They are the set designers, the makeup artists, the lighting technicians. I have so many musicians in my district. And so I have been able to have them in my office and to hear their stories about how they created all these products, how their lives have been changed by that, and how they've changed the lives of others. And so there was a particular moment which led me to start the Congressional Creative Rights Caucus, and that was when the Stop Online Piracy Act was going through Congress, SOPA. And I thought that this was a common sense measure to stop this online piracy so that there could be some teeth in getting something done. And when I saw what happened to prevent this from succeeding, I just was so alarmed. I mean, of course, there were those that were saying that the internet will be broken if SOPA passed. There were those that really didn't understand the law and yet they were against it. A lot of our millennials. And I concluded from the crushing defeat of SOPA that people on Capitol Hill did not understand the stories of the creators. They did not understand all the jobs that are created through this industry and how this is nearly our #1 export in the world. They needed to understand more of what goes on with the creative industries and how they contribute to our economy. That's why that Beyond the Red Carpet is so important.
Do you feel that the Beyond the Red Carpet has actually had an impact on people on the Hill? Because I see it expanding every time I'm coming up. So
it definitely has. Actually, what we did with the Congressional Creative Rights Caucus is to have all kinds of briefings where we invited people to talk about their craft, to talk about a product. We had for instance, a team from Spotlight come in, and they all talked about how that movie was made. So people were just enthralled. They came in and they were hypnotized by all the stories and so interested. And then the Beyond the Red Carpet is so fantastic because we have different booths and people can take pictures with their latest Star Wars character or put on the costumes of their latest favorite movie or hold an Academy Award. Anyway, people are just thrilled by that and they feel closer to the creative industries because of it.
Well, I have a question. When you said that, people didn't really necessarily understand what was going, what our work was really about and how the industry really helps to support, our culture and our environment, whatever, all those things. Do you also think that part of that is due to is there a lot of, I don't want to be with tech companies, they want to fight that. Do you think that we have to have a better messaging, not only for up on the Hill, but we have to have a better messaging to young people about what it is? You know.
Yes, yeah. Of course, I think things actually have changed drastically since the crushing defeat of SOPA, because now people are looking at a much closer eye at the internet platforms. You know, they are definitely seeing that there are some vulnerabilities there, so they don't have quite the dominance that they did at that time. But this is the time for the creative industries to truly come in and to be able to make sure that we also capture the imagination of people, and in particular our millennials, in terms of making them understand that the creative industries need their support, and that piracy is something that hurts everybody.
Right. And that's why, again, I hate to call it piracy, call it theft, call it for what it is, because that's illegal. But in Europe, you know, much has been done to ensure platforms have greater responsibility to keep content down. That's something that's been in Europe. It's, you know, we see that. Is that something that America's considering? Are we looking at a similar model to what they're doing in Europe, or?
I think it's something that we should look very closely at, and I am just encouraged that they have been able to take that step forward. So yeah, I think we have to examine what they've been doing and see how much of that can be implemented here.
Right, very important. I know we're getting ready to wrap up soon, but I wanted to ask Rebecca and Cameron if you had anything that you wanted to ask. Please feel free to do so.
I'd love to shift gears for a second and ask you a little bit about the CASE Act, obviously, which will establish a small claims court in the U.S. that would for copyright infringement. Do you think it's time that independent creators have an alternative way to resolve those copyright disputes? What are your thoughts on that?
I feel so strongly about this that, in fact, I introduced my own legislation when I was on the Judiciary Committee to establish a small claims tribunal in the Copyright Office. I have been a huge proponent of this idea because going to federal court for a case is not something that very many people can afford. And in fact, it costs an average of $397,000 per case. Can you imagine? $400,000 in order to take such a case to court. And so what I thought was that if there was a system within the Copyright Office, you could have the administrators there adjudicate it, and then you could actually bring your cases there, your grievances there. And actually, I thought of this particular bill when I heard from the photographers. If you can imagine taking a photograph and then seeing your photograph being pirated so many times over, and you might have a lot of photographs that are infringed in this manner. Can you imagine trying to take each photograph and its case of piracy to a federal court? That would be utterly impossible. So that's why this idea of having this adjudication by the Copyright Office makes so much sense. Since then, this bill idea has become the CASE Act, of which I'm a original co-sponsor. I'm very happy to say that the bill did pass out of the House with a resounding 410 yes votes, with members on both sides of the aisle. So I think that it has a lot of popular support, but we have to get the Senate to act.
Yes, we do. We have a lot of things to get them to do. So thank you for that. Cameron, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. And thank you so much for this. I've learned so much, and I actually just, my soul is filled knowing that you are there fighting on behalf of our members, truly. Before we wrap up, is there anything Congress can do to help spur film and television productions as it starts to return safely? Can it be incentivized in any way?
Well, we certainly hope that there can be the financial means for our industries to be able to continue their productions. And so that's why we passed such programs as PPP, the Payment Protection Program. And that's why we laid the groundwork for the Main Street program, which is run out of the Federal Reserve. We know it will take those dollars to be able to get such productions going. And with PPP, I do have to say that there's still $134 billion left to be able to loan to small businesses. What we need is for this next COVID bill to be able to reauthorize PPP so that we can get these applications going and so that we can actually make it more usable to our small business owners, our production companies, to those who really need those funds to go forward.
You know, I have to say before we go, it's so great to be hearing all the work that you're trying to put forward that really helps our members. You know, we talked about earlier, but this is during the pandemic, everybody's been asked to go home, you know, stay safe, stay inside, watch your favorite movies, your favorite TV shows, watch the news to be informed of what's going on. All of our members, and gladly with joy do our members do this work because it's a part of our soul. We want to be able to, you know, to be able to inform and be a part of the storytelling. And it's really meaningful to our members to know that you're fighting on our behalf, because as we've tried to help and protect and to inspire and to encourage and give hope to not only our country, but to the world, it's wonderful to know that we're being looked at and looked after, because it can be very lonely, the work that we do. We do it because we love it, but we need help. And so you as an advocate, it's meaningful. I do want you to know how important it is. You make a difference in our lives. We want to support you. We want to support all the work that's out there to make the lives of artists better. And so if you let us know, we are there. I know that part of getting things done is participating, and our members just need to know the path to do that. So again, one of the things I want to share to remind everybody, stay in touch with the acts that we're looking to pass, the legislation. Keep informed. We'll keep sharing that on our SAG-AFTRA website. But as we do that, to show the bills and the legislation that we need to have passed, we want you as members to be able to use your voice. It was a great thing that you told us earlier, that you shared with us, Congresswoman Chu, that we really need to participate by reaching out to our representatives, and because they do work for us, and we want them to be able to execute the things that are going to help us all. So again, thank you for everything you do. The work is meaningful. You've been tuning into the President's Task Force on Education Outreach and Engagement. It's a live stream that we do each week, so we hope to see you again and to continue having you do that. If you haven't already, while you're here, please subscribe to SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel to get updates on the great content we've been posting. And this has been exceptional. I know you have a lot going on. I hope that you are asked to go to Washington to do the vote. I hope that your HEROES Act passes. It will mean a great deal to all of us. We will stay in touch with you. And thank you for everything again that you do. You make a difference. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.